Hello, my name is David Burley, and I'm an associate professor in the horticulture department, and I will be the instructor for Hort 3300 Organic Gardening. And I really just wanted to take this time to tell you a little something about myself, kind of my background and my attitude or my ideas about organics, because I think that is important to understand, particularly for a class like this that there are some different opinions and some attitudes about organics and organic farming, organic food production, and so forth. So I grew up in an urban area outside of Washington, D.C. I didn't have much of a garden when I was a kid, but when I went off to college, I had this idea that I wanted to be an organic farmer. That was actually kind of my original career game plan, was to be an organic farmer in some way. Never quite played out exactly like that. I started off my career as a county extension agent, which is a farm advisor, and I worked in a small rural county in North Carolina, mostly with fruit and vegetable growers, a few ornamental growers. But I definitely got very actively involved in having a garden during that time. I started a very large garden on my land. Eventually I owned 20 acres, probably had about a quarter-acre garden at one point in time. Canned tomatoes, froze beans, the whole bit, the whole 9 yards. And I really kind of dug into the aspects of organics, the composting, the building of organic matter, the use of organic fertilizers, and so forth. And pretty much ever since then, I've been I guess a believer, you might say, or somebody who's very interested in the organic movement. I've had various different jobs since that time. I've owned a nursery, I've had a couple different landscape businesses. I went back to graduate school along the way in horticulture and got a master's degree in horticulture. Worked a couple more jobs, worked as the head horticulturalist at the State Botanical Garden. Eventually I went back to graduate school and studied landscape architecture. I got a terminal professional degree in landscape architecture and actually practiced landscape architecture for a brief period of time. And then I was offered this opportunity to teach in the horticulture department. I teach classes in landscape design, of course, because that's kind of my original area of specialty. But in the last several years, with the interest in local foods and organics and so forth, I've begun teaching several classes that kind of lean more in that direction. I teach a general horticulture class, Hort 2000. I teach this organic gardening class, Hort 3300. And I also teach Hort 4030, which is sustainable community food production. And I teach that course actually as a hands-on in the field course out at the U Garden. Obviously my interests have changed over time. I've been a professional horticulturalist for over 35 years now, but somewhere kind of at the heart of all that, I've always firmly believed in the possibilities of organics, the opportunities with growing food organically, particularly if you look at the environmental effects of your production practices. And this is one area that I feel like, if you're kind of coming up with an argument in for or against organics, I feel like the idea or the argument that you're doing things that protect the environment of your garden and your farm, as well as kind of the larger picture, kind of protecting the environment, I do feel like there's a pretty strong argument there on a lot of different issues about sustainability, about protection and conservation of other living things in the environment. And those are some of the things that we're going to talk about in this class. I'm going to try to impart upon you during this semester as much scientific-based or fact-based information about organics as I can, so that you can make your own informed decision, but that at least you'll have the right tools. And in a relatively unbiased setting, I'm going to try to provide why we do certain things, and as much as I can, I'll try to compare conventional gardening to organic gardening, so you can kind of get a sense of where the two are coming from. As it turns out, there's not all that much difference between the two, but there are some fundamental differences, and it's those areas where we'll spend a lot of time, and I'll try to provide you with information so again you can make your own informed decisions about those kinds of things. So I'd like to welcome you to the class. I hope you enjoy it. I think you'll find it's a good course. We cover a lot of good information. I can't say that you're going to become an expert gardener by taking this class, but hopefully I will teach you at least enough things about gardening, about soil preparation, about fertilizers, about pest control and things like that, that you can at least take that information and then start your own garden, or perhaps apply that to your gardening practices.